McCain is blaming Obama for the failure of the bailout, and Democrats are pointing fingers at McCain. The blame game is just the beginning. But let's back up about a decade for a second. Did you know that nearly 10 years ago, some folks were already anticipating we would have major problems forcing a government rescue? Here we are now dealing with the severe economic crisis. They were right, and back in 1999, my next guest predicted exactly this outcome, saying, quote, if they fail, the government will have to step up and bail them out the way it stepped up and bailed out the thrift industry, the S&Ls. Joining me now, Peter Wallison, a fellow from the American Enterprise Institute. He is said to be on the short list to be John McCain's Treasury Secretary if McCain is elected. And having spoken to him several times, I can understand why. Good to see you again.
Good to be here, David.
Now, first of all, let's talk about what you said, why this would happen. How did you know that this would happen?
Well, because the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these GSEs, are backed by the federal government. And if you're backed by the federal government...
Now they're essentially owned by the federal government.
Now they're owned by the federal government, just as many of the thrifts had to become owned by the federal government. But when you're backed by the federal government, the market doesn't pay very much attention to the risks you're taking. Why should they? They know they're going to be bailed out if you fail. So it was obvious to me that as they continued their business, with government backing, they were going to be taking extraordinary risks in order to get more profitable.
Because they were getting a free ride and there was no downside.
Of course.
For all their risk, they knew they could get bailed out by the government.
And the point here is that we should never set up companies that are completely backed by the U.S. government. There was a lot of denial in Congress and certainly at the companies about whether they were so backed. But it was obvious to the rest of us that
Isn't
they were.
that, though, part of what we are planning to do? Isn't part of that part of the Paulson plan? That is, we'd set up a company which would buy up the assets, the toxic assets of these banks, and then presumably dissolve it eventually.